What's going on, guys? Seth42 here, and today I am back with another college football prediction video. And today I'm going to be talking about the Baylor Bears versus the Utah Utes in this epic matchup, week number 2, which is September 9th of 2023. And I believe this is like the first meeting back from like the 90s. I believe the Bears played the Utah Utes. I don't know what the whole record is, because I don't think that the Bears ever played Utah, because it's been a while since they have been. So comment down below if you guys know when's the last time the Bears or Baylor played Utah. So yeah, this is going to be like a key matchup in my opinion, because Utah and Baylor would like to go to the college football playoffs, even though they're going to expand it soon. So this would be a huge epic win for both teams, because Baylor last year, they came off not a great season last year. Utah came off of a great season. They lost some key matches last year. Cam Rising is back with the team, though they lost some key guys last year, but they're gaining a lot more guys still as well. So yeah, this is a slideshow of a prediction video, because it's a way too early prediction video. And so if you guys would comment down below if I missed anything, if I didn't cover anything else, please comment down below. All right, so here we go, and we begin shortly with this slideshow. All right, so the location is McLane Stadium, which is at Baylor University, and honestly, I love that stadium. Just the background, also with the river as well. Baylor, I've actually liked Baylor football, though I never really paid too much attention to them. But if I did, I like watching them play. I like Dave Aranda's team, and of course, I like. If I had to choose between any schools in Texas, I'd probably most likely would choose Baylor to play football there. They just got really nice facilities, and Texas always has, the state of Texas always has great facilities in football. They're like the godfather of football, with Florida, California, and like New York or something like that. But yeah, so yeah, the location is at McLane Stadium. Time is to be determined, so I don't really know if it's going to be like a 3:30 game. They probably already have it on ESPN, but this is what I have for you guys right here. So the coaches, we have Dave Aranda, has done a great job so far with Matt Rule leaving, and then him going back to college football with the head coach of Nebraska. So Dave Aranda actually has has done a decent job at Baylor, but last year struggled a little bit, but still was still a not so bad season, but like not great for their standards. So his previous coaching job was at LSU as defensive coordinator, and his current record for Baylor is 26-16. For Utah, we have Kyle Whittingham, who's current, of course, has only been at Utah his first ever job as a full head coach, and he's done a pretty well job at Utah with 154 wins and 74 losses. So he's been there for quite some time. He's won a few Pac-12 conference championships, and he just won this past season. So that is pretty impressive for him. All right, so last season we have Baylor. Like I said before, they struggled a little bit this year, but 6-7 is still an okay season, but not the best that you want to be. So they lost a few games, and they lost a few bad ones and a few close ones, I believe. And so they have 0 key wins, but they went 6-7, 4-5, 6 in the Big 12. And of course, Utah, they actually had a really good season this year with 10-4, 7-2, 4th in the Pac-12, and of course key wins. But this is actually kind of funny, because this whole the USC game was a little sketchy at the time, at the ending, because there's some questionable calls that Utah got, and I think it was like a home game as well. So in the USC lost 43-42, and the funny thing was, well, they actually went back in the conference championship, and then they destroyed USC, who was ranked 4th in the nation, and they had an actual chance to go to the college football playoffs if they would have won this matchup. All right, so I don't know if these players are all accurate. I don't know. This is like the results or like news about the players going to the draft, and of course news in general about the transfer portal and all this other stuff. So sorry if I pronounce this name wrong, but defensive lineman Sayaki Ika, or Saiki, I can't pronounce that whole name. Ika, third round, the player, he's the only player that got drafted for the Bears. Third round to the Browns, and of course offensive tackle Connor Galvin, undrafted free agent, signs with the Detroit Lions. And of course, defensive end Jackson Player, undrafted free agent. Tight end Ben Sims, undrafted free agent, signs with the Vikings. Linebacker Dylan Doyle, undrafted free agent, Safety Christian Morgan, undrafted free agent, signs with the Packers. Center Jacob Gow, undrafted free agent, signs with the Falcons. OG Khalil Keith, undrafted free agent, and signs with the Giants. All right, so Utah honestly they haven't really lost a lot of players, but they lost a few key guys to the draft, and of course some issues off the field as well. Tight end Dalton Kincaid, I really would like to have Dalton Kincaid because he's a beast of a tight end. I would love for him to be drafted by the Panthers, but they didn't, so it is what it is. And he got drafted by the Bills, so Josh Allen is really going to have a stud for a tight end. And of course, defensive back Clark Phillips III is actually also a really good defensive back, drafted 4th round to the Falcons. Offensive guard Braden Daniels, drafted 4th round to the Commanders. And of course, running back Tavion Thomas has some issues off the field. He's undrafted free agent, would have been signed or drafted in the league if not for the issues off the field. Linebacker Mohamed Diabete, undrafted free agent, signs with the Cleveland Browns. So not a bad results for the Utah Utes for the NFL draft. All right, so the roster news. Baylor had a lot of players transferring out this year, with running back Craig Squirrel Williams goes to Louisiana Tech, who's a former 4-star. Lorando Johnson goes to Arkansas, former 4-star. Wide receiver Josh Fleeks goes to Nebraska, former 4-star. Kyron Drones goes to Virginia Tech, 4-star. Micah Mouse-Kua goes to Florida, who's a former 3-star. Al Wolcott goes to Arkansas, 3-star. Seth Jones goes to USF, 3-star. Noah Rauschenberg goes to North Texas, who's a kicker, 3-star, a former prospect. Devin Neal goes to Louisville, who's a former 3-star recruit. Jalen Ellis, undecided and 3-star player, and goes. So he's undecided. So that is your transferring out players for roster news. And of course, players transferring in. Now, they actually got a lot of players transferring in, some key players as well, like defensive end Trevin Maye. If I pronounced the last name wrong, I'm sorry. A 4-star player from Oregon, Sawyer Robertson, who's going to probably be the key player for on offense, or maybe he won't be. But from Mississippi State, former 4-star player Isaiah Dunson from Miami, former 4-star player Ketron Jackson from Arkansas, former 4-star player Byron Vaughns from Utah State, former 3-star player Dominic Richardson from Oklahoma State. I don't know why I didn't put that. But it's probably a 3-star. But Mike Smith from Liberty, former 3-star. Tight end Jake Roberts from Texas Tech, from North Texas, former 3-star. And of course, Campbell Barrington, former 3-star. And an offensive tackle, Clark Barrington, is a former 2-star athlete. All right, for Utah, they actually had a really long list of players transferring out. So this is the players that I put on there. They just had so many guys. This is from On3 Sports, the current players who transfer out of Utah. Linebacker Ethan Colvert, undecided, 4-star. Mason Tufaga, goes to Oregon State, former 4-star. Ricky Perks, undecided, 4-star. Paul Maley goes to BYU, 3-star recruit. Chris Reed, undecided, 3-star recruit. Malone Matele goes to BYU, former 3-star player recruit. Elisha Lloyd, undecided, former 3-star player recruit. Tyler Wiggis goes to Boise State, former 3-star athlete. And of course, offensive tackle Tyler Knack, undecided, former 3-star recruit. So, and of course, check full list on On3 transfer portal because they had a lot. Utah didn't really have anybody transferring in, or like a lot of players transferring in, but they did have some few guys that are actually good. Cornerback Miles Battle from Ole Miss, former 4-star recruit. Defensive end Logan Fano from BYU, former 4-star recruit. Wide receiver Emery Simmons, who actually used to play at UNC as well, from Indiana, former 3-star recruit. Levani Damuni from Stanford, former 3-star recruit. And of course, kicker Cole Becker from Colorado, former 3-star recruit. All right, so the top 3 players on offense from both teams. Of course, I'll do the top 3 players on defense as well. So it looks like that quarterback sophomore Blake Shapen, who will be the main guy for the team. And I believe they had a quarterback transfer to USF who was gonna be the guy, but then Blake Shapen pretty much took over. So he actually had a decent season. If he would have reduced the amount of interceptions, I think that Blake Shapen will actually have a better season this year than the previous season. All right, so stats: he went 200 for 33, completions to 368 to 63.3%, 2,790 yards passing, 18 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. Running back freshman Richard Reese, he's actually a key player for this year. He actually is a stud. He was one of the main guys last year for Baylor, and he's going to be another key piece for Baylor. So watch out for him as he is going to dominate the rushing game for the next year's season. All right, so stats: he had 198 carries, 972 rushing yards, 6.8 yards average of rushing, and of course 14 touchdowns as well. All right, so wide receiver sophomore Monterey Baldwin. I think this is like accurate stats. So he had 33 receptions, 565 receiving yards, averaged about 10.1 yards of catching, and of course 4 touchdowns as well. All right, for Utah, I think Utah is going to have a lot of studs back on offense as well. So Cameron Rising, who is going to be a potential Heisman Trophy winner type of quarterback, who can be a top 5 draft pick as well. So he is a senior this year. Stats: he had 249 completions to 385 attempts, 64.7 completion percentage, 3,334 passing yards, 26 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. So pretty good this past season. All right, running back freshman Jaquindon Jackson. He actually did really well, also filling in for Tavion Thomas, who was their leading rusher last year. Stats: he had 78 carries, 531 rushing yards, average about 8.0 average of rushing, and 9 touchdowns as well. All right, so wide receiver senior Devon Vell. He had a good season last year as well. Stats: at 55 receptions, 695 receiving yards, 12.6 yards of receiving, and of course 5 touchdowns as well. And of course, notable players, which is a key player, Dalton Kincaid, and of course Tavion Thomas, who were the 2 key guys from the last year's season. All right, so the top 3 players for defense. Baylor's defense, I believe, will have a solid defensive core with one of their key guys like Matt Jones is returning, and of course Gabe Hall also, who is a defensive lineman. So I put like the defensive lineman, the linebacker, and the secondary, who had the best like tackles or the leading tackles for defense. So defensive lineman junior Gabe Hall, his stats went 36 total tackles, 16 solo tackles, averaged about 4.5 sacks, and 1 fumble recovery. All right, linebacker junior Matt Jones, who's one of the key guys as well for Baylor. He had 64 total tackles, 43 solo tackles, 2.5 sacks, 4 pass deflections for Matt Jones. All right, safety freshman Devin Lemire. He's going to be a stud as well. He has stats of 55 total tackles, 33 solo tackles, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, and 2 interceptions. So he's going to be a stud as well. So I think some of the players on Baylor's defense is going to be key players for this upcoming season. Utah's defense, we have a defensive lineman junior. Oops, I put that twice. My bad. Connor O'Toole. Stats: he had 41 total tackles, 22 solo tackles, 1.5 sacks, and 1 fumble recovery. We have a linebacker sophomore Lander Barton. His stats were 46 total tackles, 26 solo, 4.5 sacks, 1 fumble recovery, or 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, and 1 pass deflection. All right, Cole Bishop, who's a stud on defensive for safety for Utah. He had 83 total tackles, 47 solo, 1.5 sacks, 1 fumble recovery, and of course 1 interception. All right, so for team stats, we have Baylor. We have yards per game, 413.8 yards per game. Yards passing per game, we have 231.5 passing yards per game. For rushing yards, we have 182.4. Of course, 32.2 points per game. We have Utah. We have yards per game. We have 466.9 yards per game. Yards passing, we have 249.2. Yards of rushing, we have 217.6. And points per game, for Utah is 38 points, 6 points per game. All right, team stats. We have defense. We have Baylor. We have yards allowed per game. Not really all that great for defense because Baylor in the Big 12 and Pac-12, Big 12 are kind of similar with a lot of yards and a lot of scoring touchdowns as well. All right, so yards allowed per game, we have 370.3. Passing yards allowed, 232.8. Rushing yards allowed, 137.6. Actually, not too bad for rushing yards, but still not all that great. But better than UNC's defense, that's for sure. Points allowed per game, 26.6. Not too bad, especially in the Big 12, because they like to score a lot of points in the Big 12. All right, Utah, yards allowed per game, 325.3. A lot better, which is like minus 50 yards compared to Baylor's. Passing yards allowed, 218.3. Rushing yards allowed, 107.0. So that's pretty decent. Points allowed per game, only 6 off from Baylor, which is 20.4. All right, so my final prediction. I know this is probably going to be a lot of Baylor fans or maybe Utah fans will get mad at this prediction, but who knows? But this is just my prediction. Comment down below what you guys think. But I think that I think Utah may be the better team, even though it's at Baylor. I think that Utah, with a lot of experienced players on offense and a lot of experienced players on defense, but I could be totally wrong. This is just my pick. I think that Utah may have an edge. I could be totally wrong in this, but I have Utah in this prediction by minus 7 points on a road win against Baylor, and this is going to be an epic game. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think about this game. It's going to be an interesting game, in my opinion, but I think that Utah has this game, in my opinion, by 7 points. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think. Comment down below. Predict who you think is going to win. And if you have any comments or constructive criticism, please comment down below what I missed, what player I missed, or who do you think that actually is going to win this game? Because this is a way too early prediction video, and I just want you guys to comment down below who you think is going to win this game. All right, guys, 742 here. Y'all have a great day. Peace out.